This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 197, recorded on January 1st, 2015. Here at Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all of your favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a very, very, very cold and blustery Bellevue, Nebraska. We saw negative 15 or so wind chills this morning here, which is fairly unusual for the way things have been recently, but still pretty cold. And, of course, we'll post this show, the first show of 2015, with world-class show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. If you have questions, comments, or contributions, you can contact the show via email. Just send that to me, Jim, at theaverageguy.tv, and many of you are doing that, so thank you for sending me your emails. You can track me down on Twitter at jcollison, or now you can call in those questions, and we're actually going to kick off the show with a called-in question. And so if you want to do that, call us 402-478-8450. And actually, the last couple calls we've gotten have lined up perfectly with the guests that I've been having on. Imagine that, how that would work, who would be able to answer the question. And we'll play those like we're going to do tonight right here on the program. And now Home Gadget Geeks is a part of the Geeks Network. Find links to this show and many other great podcasts out at the geeksnetwork.com. I say Average Guy too much. That's the problem. Join us in chat. Watch or listen live on YouTube, on Spreaker, and now on Mixlr as well. Find all the navigation you'll ever need over at theaverageguy.tv. In fact, some massive upgrades going on. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Some massive upgrades to the infrastructure around theaverageguy.tv, and Christian will talk about that a little bit. But Christian, thanks for all the work that you do to keep us running here at theaverageguy.tv. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
We'll talk more about that infrastructure on the back end. All right, tonight what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about 2015. Before we do that, though, like I said, I encourage you guys to call in and to do that. And so we, from time to time, I'm getting them more frequently these days. We get you to call in, and so I think this is Neil. So let's listen to his question.
I heard on one of your podcasts the idea of using the VPN on the server 2012 R2 Essentials experience. I'd like to use it from Android, and there's very little information about how to do that. The Windows pretty much takes care of it. In Android, there are 8 or 10 kinds of VPNs, and some of them require certificates. I can't even find out under the covers which ones are supported on Essentials in the 2012 R2. So I don't know if it should be a topic on a show or something that someone can put a video out on your tips or whatever, but the average guy finds it daunting, and not much web searching can really help on the details. Thank you.
All right, Christian, I'm going to throw that one over to you. I think with all the work that you've been doing as of late, you might have some answers. VPN Android 2012.
Sure. So 2012 by default sets up VPN to go over HTTPS, right? So the big thing about that is by default, when you go to that, remotewebaccess.com page that lets you basically log in, and you can click those remote desktop tiles and so forth. That's over an HTTPS certificate you typically get from Microsoft. The VPN infrastructure that is built into the 2012 or 2012 R2 platform goes through that same connection, and that's called Secure Socket Tunneling protocol. That's the type of VPN that is. It's SSTP. So by default, when your Windows machine connects over that remote access pipe, the way it's set up, it's going to be SSTP. It is relatively easy, however, to go into the remote access the server itself, and go to the routing and remote access management and add an additional VPN type, which is called PPTP, or point-to-point tunneling protocol. And so what that is a protocol that is natively supported in the Android operating system and doesn't require the SSL certificate. So it's fairly quick to set up. You pop in that remotewebaccess.com host name for the server address when the phone asks for it. You're going to log in over an encrypted connection using your regular Windows Home Server login credentials. So really the only thing you have to do is go into your server manager for routing and remote access and go through the process of changing that over to a PPTP connection, which I can walk through now if I have a second to bring up my own system, or we can put into a tip. But then from a phone standpoint, you really just go to the typical Android settings icon. You click More Networks. Then you go down to VPN, the second last option on my Android version. And then when you tap to add VPNs, you look for that PPTP. It's the first option in my drop-down, actually. So that's the easiest thing to get set up. The stuff with SSL certificates and so forth deals with a protocol called IPsec, and that's a tunneling protocol that's arguably probably the most high-tech of all those different VPN protocols. But really the two-part process for getting it to work is A, change your remote access server to offer PPTP, and B, set up your router or your gateway to forward the PPT port to your server, which is port 1723, I believe.
Wow, just like that. There you go. Hey, it would help me too if you guys call and leave messages. Tell me your name so I know who you are on that. Sometimes it's helpful to know so I can, and then maybe you leave your email address or something in the message. I won't play that over the air, but so that I can get back to you and tell you that we've answered your question. But that doesn't sound... Christian, average guy, above average guy, work to get that done? Fairly easy to do?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is pretty average guy. It's really just a question of when you go into your server, open up that routing and remote access panel, you change it. You change the type from SSTP to PPTP, and then you just create that port forward rule in your router, and you're pretty much good to go.
Okay, very cool. And Drashna says in chat, 1723, is that what you said?
Yeah.
1723.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Christian, thanks for doing that. And then you too, you have a question we'd love us to answer. We'll figure it out for you. Give me a call, 402-478-8450, and we'll do like just what we did here on the show. All right, let's dig in a little bit. A couple guys. We just heard from Christian, and of course, Christian's been all things Cyber Frontiers as of late. And surprisingly enough, we're up to Cyber Frontiers 15, and I think we have 16 coming up very, very quickly. If that's not this next coming Monday, I think you can join us every other Monday here at theaverageguy.tv/live. And if you haven't subscribed to that, you'll want to do that. But Christian, welcome back.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back, and from the I'm now calling it the Buffalo Knock Network Operations Center, and here for a little bit longer before I get back into the grind in Washington D.C. So good to be on.
Yeah, good to have you. And we'll talk more about the knock here at the end of the show. So if you want
Sure.
to hang tight, Christian and I got some stuff we want to record to get that done, but hang tight till the end of the show. And then I haven't seen him in a while, but he's all things microserver and making videos, and he's got special lighting now, John Stutzman. John, welcome back. Good to see you.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation. I don't think people can see, but I got my Skoondoggy T-shirt on,
Nice.
and so for this occasion, I thought this was the perfect thing.
I tried to get Kevin to come on, and we just never connected. But in honor of Kevin Schoonover, you bet.
That's right. So he's here in spirit. So here he is. And I wanted to wish everybody a happy New Year, and hope they have a wonderful 2015.
All right, you bet. Happy New Year to you as well. Thanks for coming on. And then to his right, at least on my screen, and coming in from somewhere in Canada in the frozen northeast of Canada, John Zadler. John, how are you?
Howdy, gents. Yeah, well, today actually we had some snow and stuff, but the rest of the week, or earlier in the week, it was very nice, warm temperatures. All the snow melted. It was like as if spring was coming. But today, Canada Day, sorry, not Canada Day, sorry, New Year's Day, we got some snow and stuff. So, hey, Jim, I want to say congrats there. What is it now? You had 2 years you've been podcasting, right?
Yeah, Christian and I were talking about that. 4 years we've been doing podcasting now here on the network.
Yep.
4 years.
4 years.
It's 4 years already. Jeez.
4 years.
Now, but you're also getting to episode. This is episode what? 197.
197. Yeah, we're just 3 weeks away from 200.
200. So there's a couple of anniversaries. I knew there was some
Yeah.
stuff going on there. I said because I know a couple episodes ago you said something about an anniversary. I said, wow, time flies, and now 200's coming around the
I
corner.
know.
Cool.
John, you and I have been podcasting together for 5 years. If we think about it that way, we started in April of '09 with Dave over at Home Server Show. So, of course, you can still find that. Dave and I are doing that about every other week now. HomeServerShow.com, and so John, thanks for coming out tonight. And then all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, and from the confines of the JPEG to RAW studios there, Mike Howard. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great. Wondering what kind of fool would schedule a podcast on playoff.
Boom.
Playoff. I know. Playoff
night,
Thursday.
the first playoffs ever.
That's kind of
What
crazy.
kind of bigger fool will agree to come on?
You said to me, you were like, dude, and I'm like, come on, we'll do the scores. So let's do a quick update. If you're listening live, Oregon, what's the score of the Oregon?
Oregon's over.
Florida State?
That's
Is
I
it
think
done?
that ended. I think it was 59-20.
Okay, so that's
I'm not
done.
positive
So
on that.
Ohio State, Alabama.
Just like seconds ago, Ohio State kicked a field goal, so it's 3-0.
Okay, 3-0. We'll check in from time to time
All right.
to just see. John likes that. So we got to
Go
go
Big
for
Ten, yeah.
Go Big Ten. Yeah, we have one,
Well,
two,
we may not
three
all
big-
be in agreement there.
Hey, we got 3 from the Big Ten on the podcast tonight, so it's
Whoop.
you're a little dominated there. Even though Maryland's brand new to the Big Ten, we'll give. I guess we are too here in Nebraska. So, all right, let's dig in a little bit to 2015. Well, one of the things I've spent some time doing, and end of the year is always a time to clean stuff up, right? I've been going back through my backups. I go back through the website. I kind of tighten things up. I check files. Mike, I know you've been kind of doing an inventory of your kind of file structure. We can talk about that here in a little bit and how you're going to keep things. One of the things I did on the AverageGuy.tv website was I started going back just a little audit inventory, and I was going to start uploading my files to archive.org. It's kind of one more place to be found, and then if something were to ever happen or I just decided I didn't want to podcast anymore and I took down the AverageGuy.tv, which I don't think Christian would ever let me. But if I did decide to do that, they'd be on archive.org. Well, as I was going back through all those 197 podcasts to get them up there, I realized when we made the conversion from WordPress instances. So we went on the newest WordPress instance, Meso Columns is what I'm on right now. I broke almost everything that was like 165 and back. So if you ever try to go back and get anything on the podcast, sometimes the audio player was there. Almost never was the video player there. Nobody complained, which made me sad because it makes me think you guys don't go back and listen to those things, and that's okay. It didn't hurt my feelings too bad. But we went back through, cleaned all that up, and I actually made the posts more efficient, and I think I future-proofed them here as well. So everything Home Gadget Geeks is now caught up, and everything Cyber Frontiers is now caught up. There's only one episode of Cyber Frontiers that had the problem. Everything else was fine. But end of the year, beginning of the year, it's a good time to go back, take a look at what you're doing, go through backups and things like that. That's for me, for the end of the year kind of stuff for me. That's a lot of the stuff that we do here. So I always spend the extra time that I have doing backups, making sure. So let me just do a reminder, and I sent this out in the newsletter today. So if you aren't signed up for our newsletter, and I have about 57 of you that are, but if you haven't signed up yet, go out to the AverageGuy.tv/newsletter, and you can get the most current one that we did for December. Some information in there about what we do here in the network, but some reminders of some things to do throughout the, as like just for example, in this case, some things for you to do here at the end of the year, and so get signed up, get registered. We'll send you the newsletter automatically, just one time a month. I remind you to think about your backups. If you haven't gotten involved with a home server and NAS, we talk about that a little bit. End of the year is always a good time to check your UPS. Are your batteries working? Can it survive? If the power goes down, if you get a bunch of snow or whatever, and the power goes down. Do you know where all your data is? Right? Have you got pictures? And we all probably have pictures all over the place with our phones and such. And then of course, a need for speed, right? If you haven't checked your router or if you haven't checked your modem in a while, the DSL or cable modem, might be a time to check it here at the end of the year. You might be doing an upgrade, whether you purchase it or you go through your provider, and you can get upgraded speed. So that's what you get in the newsletter, and just encourage you to head out there, theaverageguy.tv/newsletter, and get signed up for it, and we'd love to have you a part of it. All right.
I have a question.
Jim,
Yeah, go ahead.
almost exactly when you said the newsletter thing. A newsletter, wait, have you subscribed for the newsletter yet? Popped up on your website.
It did. Yeah.
Did
So
you do that on purpose?
no, it's one of those kinds of things that if you come to the site and then you try and navigate away from it, it's a little reminder. Hey, boom! Have you registered for it yet? I started doing that. That's a plugin that I use with WordPress, and I started doing that a couple weeks ago. By the way, if I've annoyed you with it, I'm sorry.
No, it's once a month. It's very clean. It's not annoying at all to me.
Well, that pop-up, I mean, that'll pop up every couple weeks until you register for it. But
I'm registered.
I probably won't. You are registered?
Of course.
Yeah, I don't think it checks that. So I'll probably have to shut that off in a month or so, so people don't get.
Well, if it's every other couple of weeks, that's fine.
It's like supposed to be every 2 weeks. That's supposed to pop up and remind you, and you can easily shut that down if you want to do that. But that's a little plug-in, and I'm not going to log into it. That's a little plug-in in WordPress that I use. If you want more details about how to do that, you can do that as well. All right, let's talk
Jim,
about. Yeah, go
I
ahead,
just
John.
wanted to make another point. Like I find in the New Year is a good time. It reminds me to change my passwords for a lot of stuff. I mean, I guess if depending on how good you are with passwords, maybe you should do it more often, maybe monthly or whatever. But at least once a year, it's like changing the battery in the fire detectors. In the house there. Maybe do it, Christmas or New Year's, and then maybe somewhere in the 4th of July it gets, and then us Canada Day. So maybe every 6 months they get the passwords and stuff. But yeah, you make me think, because even just my Windows Home Server 1, my EX490 that I got, I rebuilt it there this week over the holidays. I said, let me reinstall everything. And sometimes even with your operating systems, right? Some people have, it gets clunky, right? All these files and everything. So maybe it's a good time to say, look, let me just reinstall the OS, especially if you have a home server. Everything's backed up. It's like, and then maybe you got a hard drive for Christmas or something. So it's like, okay, throw in a new hard drive, reinstall your OS, and try to do everything fresh and stuff like that. And then if everything is up to speed and you have all your Dropboxes and your OneDrive and all that stuff, all connected with your profiles and stuff, and you're like, okay, that's good. Okay, now I can, take that old drive and use it as, the old drive that had the original operating system, say, put on the shelf for a while, or, just in case. And start the year fresh, I don't know if it's opening a bag of what is it, can of worms? Yeah, can of worms. It's like, I don't know if I should do it.
You can put yourself in a hole, right? I mean, you can put yourself in a hole sometimes too, because you realize, oh man, I haven't done this in a while, and now I got to catch up. I mean, I spent like 9 hours fixing the website to get all those videos working right. Once I discovered one, you kind of hate that, and you're like, oh, then I could not leave them alone. I'm like, I can't think of somebody going to the site and it being broken for some reason, so I had to fix it. Mike, you've been working on like deduping your data too, right? During this season.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about Unraid in the past, and I have 3 main servers at home. One is Windows Storage Server, Windows Server 2008 R2, and Unraid, which I've run Unraid for, gosh, it's been a long time, longer than you've been podcasting Average Guy. And it's been working fine. But because I have, 35 terabytes worth of storage available to me, I've been very sloppy with how I keep it, and I have found where I have photos that have backed up 4 or 5 times, out there. So I've been working very hard to reduce the amount of data on Unraid, and I'm going to take all that off, build it into a smaller box, and then eventually consolidate those 3 servers down into one server 2000 R2. And that I have a Norco 4020 case, so I'm going to put it all in there. But moving that kind of data, what do you do when you have 3 servers? You have lots of data on all of them. It takes a long time to go through all that, because you're going to end up with basically the same drives, but you got to clean them off those drives and rebuild it somewhere else before you can build it new. So that's the process I'm going through. It's taking forever. It
takes a while when you're talking about moving that much data. It takes a while. The other good thing to check are your cloud storage providers to make sure. Like sometimes we set up automatic connectors to make those work, like we're moving things around automatically. And it's good every once in a while. End of the year is a good time just to check those, make sure that they're indeed kind of working as well. So those are some things to think about going backwards. And again, get signed up for the newsletter. I got some advice, some good advice, I think, about things to do here at the end of the year. But let's look forward a little bit. Really what I wanted to do is kind of say, what are we looking for coming in 2015? So John Stutzman, I want to start with you, since you were kind enough to actually get to the show notes first and put something in there. You get a reward for doing that. John, What are you looking forward to? Let's just pick one off your list there. What are you looking forward to in 2015, or what do you see coming in 2015 that you're excited about?
Well, I'm excited about a lot of things coming up in 2015. That there's a list of things that I have seen that are supposed to be coming out, like Skype Translator. It's supposed to be a real-time audio translator, so that you could, for instance, Skype with somebody in Hungary or Germany or Russia, and the translation would happen in real time. You could go back and forth. So, you could have Putin on your show or something like that, and though I think he knows English too. But you get what I mean. I think that would be exciting. It's a sort of a Star Trek-y type thing, I think. And I had been reading that some scientists at some Australian universities, and I see Rennie's listening in, so a shout out to Australia. But they're planning to find a commercial partner to go ahead and launch their first printable solar panels. And what's exciting about that is that once you can start doing that, and you can do it so cheaply, you could have solar cells or solar panels everywhere. You could have the back of your phone be a solar cell, and if it's running down, you hold it up to the sun or a light, and maybe it'll give you enough charge to make a call or something. Just things like that. There's a lot more, and you can get into that once you get to the get more in depth in that with printable solar cells. Maybe somebody comes up with solar cells, printable. I know they have them that are transparent. Well, then you could put those on windows, and you have a lot of structures in cities that you could put those on. But that's probably beyond 2015. But then a thing that I think is really neat is Samsung is promising to incorporate foldable screens into some of their phones and tablets and wearables by the end of the summer. Well, even if they run late and they don't do it until Christmas, for instance, I think that's going to be pretty exciting, because that's going to open up a whole new avenue of things that could be going on. And the really big thing is Star Wars Episode 7 comes out December 18th. So I already got that on the calendar, and I'm ready for it.
Got the date all blocked out already. Got tickets almost purchased.
I went to the intro of the first Star Wars and in St. Louis at the first showing, and the first 200 people got a button, "May the Force be with you," and that was so that was pretty cool. So it's I've been a Star Wars fan for a long time, so it'll be interesting to see how they carry on the program.
Yeah, no, I think this will be one of the most anticipated movies of our lifetime. I mean, I can't think there are so many geeks who have children who are now Star Wars fans that because we've taught our kids how to be Star Wars fans. And so you have multi-generations who are waiting for something better than the awful stuff that Lucas put out in the last years of whatever he was trying to do. I'm not sure what he was trying to do with that, but of course J.J. Abrams now is going to be directing that, and I think it's going to be one of the most anticipated movies of 2015. And it brings so many things together, and I think it will be highly anticipated. I think we're going to talk about it. They're going to leak stuff all summer. As they're going to be leaking screenshots, and I mean, they've already got the official trailers already out, which is crazy a year in advance. But I'm with you on that. I think that it's there's some good stuff coming along those lines. So, it's anybody else looking forward to Star Wars here in December?
Of course, yes.
Yeah. John Zadler, are you a Star Wars guy?
More of a Star Trek guy. But I mean, I saw all the Star Wars and stuff. But if I have to go with the space guys and then Battlestar Galactica and all that stuff, for me Star Trek is number one. Then Star Wars would be number 2 or 3. Yeah, maybe number 2.
Yeah.
And then
Christian, we could talk all evening about Star Trek and BSG, because I mean those are really great shows too.
Yeah, there's some good ones. Christian, how do you feel? I mean, you're outside of our demographic age-wise here. How do you feel about Star Wars?
I mean, I feel pretty good about Star Wars. I kind of side with John on that. I'm a huge Trekkie addict. It's kind of a problem, but from a Star Wars perspective, I mean, I appreciate the universe that was built and constructed. Actually, one of the most fascinating things about Star Wars to me was not only the original stuff that was done, but the fan base that took into the extended universe, the expanded universe, and all the things that they've done in that are just, to me, mind-blowingly crazy. I mean, they have built a whole different universe within a universe, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's a very interesting franchise for sure. I think J.J. Abrams is arguably the logical choice to succeed into this next series. I know there's some people that are kind of hesitant that he's going to mess it up and all that stuff, but look, Abrams has done a lot of cool stuff in sci-fi that if you look at the resumes of other directors in the movie business, Abrams is killing it with sci-fi. I mean, he did the five seasons of Fringe, which was a primetime television show on Fox. It was one of the coolest sci-fi things I had seen that was original, creative, funny as all get out. And that was Abrams, and I don't remember who the other co-producer was. With the new Star Treks that Abrams kind of brought back to life. There were some set things I was really unhappy about, like why does the Star Trek engine room look like a beer brewery, and why are they jumping up elevator shafts in like 5 seconds? I mean, if you go back and look at like how long it took them to go from deck 1 to 30 on the episodes of Star Trek, they used to have all the deep, dark, revealing conversations of the episode would always happen in the elevator shaft, and in this one they're like these high speed, whoosh, and the next thing you know they're on a different deck. But I mean, those theatrical elements aside that, miff Star Trek fans like myself, I mean, he did a good job with it. With Star Trek, I think we're going to see a blend of old and new, right? I mean, the fact that the original crew, the guy playing Han Solo, the guy playing Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, I mean, these people aren't young people anymore, right? So the fact he's making all that work and putting some new characters in, I think it's going to be pretty intense. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. I already laughed that people have problems with like a black stormtrooper. Get over it. I mean, anyway. But I mean, I think he's going to put some creative stuff into it. So for the J.J. Abrams haters out there, just pull it in a little bit. Just give him a chance. If it's really that bad, fine. Like I said, I think Star Trek, he miffed me a little, but I've seen some great stuff from Abrams with Fringe and some of the other stuff, and really I don't think anyone can give me a better name for who's directing sci-fi productions and making them into million-dollar franchises than Abrams. Sorry for that rant.
No, it's good. Hey, are you guys getting a little blip in the audio when we talk, or is it did like Christian sound good the whole time?
Sounded pretty good to me.
But I think I'm seeing a little bit of video and audio is a little off.
Okay. Could be, yeah, it could be on my end. All right, we'll keep going. Google will record it in some way or form or fashion, and so we'll be fine there.
As a segue into talking about Star Trek and Star Wars and stuff, one of the things I think that's exciting that is a growing thing is the Internet of Things, and and the wearables and stuff, and how this is all going to expand, and so that gets me excited. So I didn't mean to jump in there.
No, I think it's good. I spent the last couple days getting all my fitness stuff caught up. So I'm now using. I figured out how to use my Garmin 220 a little bit better, and some of the fitness stuff I'm doing. And I can now sync, when we think of the Internet of Things, I can now sync my Connect piece with Garmin to my FitnessPal, and they are sharing data in between each other about exercise and food, right, that I'm eating. And then I was thinking, how do I get my steps every day? Well, I can get it on my phone, right? I can set S Fitness or S, I forget what they call it on Android, and I can turn that on and get my steps, and I can connect that and put those steps in each day. So yeah, there's some interesting things coming when we think about Fitbit and some of the other wearables that are coming along with it. There's some great fitness gear that's coming out in 2015 that I'm pretty excited about. The thing I'm most excited about is heart rate monitors that have come off the chest bands and have gone on to the have gone on to the bands there. I never would have worn some of those, and in 2015 I'll probably pick up a watch that has a heart rate monitor on it as well. So
And let me just take a second to not dispel the myth, but to put into context what the Internet of Things really means. That's a terminology we've kind of created as a buzzword like big data and these other words. The Internet of Things has been around for years, and that is IPv6. And it's the adoption of IPv6 that has created the Internet of Things. But when someone asks me, well, what is the Internet of Things? All it is that we now have billions of addresses and billions of devices connected to each other. But it's not like this was a new technology that just suddenly showed up, right? This has been in the works for years, and anyone who's in network engineering gets really frustrated when they hear the word Internet of Things. From an average guy perspective, it's the Internet of Things. Let's be real. I don't think anyone cares about IPv4 versus IPv6, but that's kind of the thing, right? And of course we bring back VentSurf into this, but basically VentSurf pushing for the IPv6 standard and getting people to adopt is what makes Internet of Things possible. So just some context to that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good explanation. There's
Well,
more,
but I
more
think
things
that
being connected, though, right, John? That's what you're talking about. More things being connected.
It is. It is a lot more things being connected, and a lot more things. It also increases from a systems perspective. It increases your threat space or threat surface.
Absolutely, yeah.
And because you have all these additional devices out there, how do you keep all of those things secure and talking to each other and working together? And you start meshing in some of these emerging technologies, like I was talking earlier about Samsung coming out with the foldable screens. Well, the first ones aren't going to be that great, but 5 years from now, we're going to have something pretty interesting. And the Internet of Things, and while I understand some people cringe when they hear that, that's also thrown around by a lot of engineers who are implying or saying, really, we're talking about just a ton of stuff out there, all of it talking to each other. And some people, that's a cool thing, but it's also, how do you keep it secure? And, you could kind of go from there to start looking at, the data breaches that we have seen, and how, things, I think it's just going to be more and more difficult to keep things secure, because you're going to have people doing more into the cloud, and once you take things and take computations outside your control and somebody else is supposedly watching it for you, well then, just how secure is that? And I don't want to talk on and on about it, because I know Mike has got some stuff he wants to talk about, and I'm sure John and Christian got many things they want to talk about. So
No, good stuff as well. And I'll remind you that, Cyber Frontiers is the show for that. So we talk about that stuff all the time on Cyber Frontiers, and if you haven't made the jump over there yet, it's a good place to listen. But you're right, John. Let's move on a little bit. Mike's got some stuff listed here. Mike, as you think about 2015, what kind of things are you looking forward to?
Well, I already mentioned the server thing. So the next thing on I got to throw out something on photography, because that's what we do. And for me, the biggest thing, because I already have the software, I have the camera gear, I have all that, is something we do a lot in our careers, continual training. So for me, the big thing for 2015 is going to be editing training, doing some workshops where I'm not hosting them, I'm learning from them. So there's tons of them out there. I've mentioned some of on the show that we talked about, when the gift idea show that we did with you. But I'm doing one right now on editing training. So my skills in editing and using Photoshop and all that can use some improvement. So that's what I'm doing right now from that standpoint. From another thing I'm looking forward to, and I've started this, is I do not like to eat vegetables very much at all. My form of a vegetable is a French fry. And so, but for 2015, I want to get healthier. And what we just ordered, I actually ordered it using the Average Guy link just last night.
Thank you.
So you should be seeing that coming through soon. New juicer. We had a juicer, because I can take vegetables. If you take vegetables and you put in like a lemon, or you put in an apple or something, or a carrot, it makes it then very easy to drink. And now I've got that vegetable I couldn't eat before, something like crazy, awful like spinach, and I can eat it and get that nutrition from there. So we just ordered a juicer that does a better job of getting all that liquid out of there, because one we had now does okay, but there's a lot of pulp coming out afterwards. So the one we're ordering now is like cacetating or something like that. My wife told me what it was. Juicer. I put the link in the show notes, and that is one that I ordered and should be arriving this weekend, I believe.
Oh, very cool. And Fitbit is certainly something that we talked about Fitbits with you last year, and so.
And I ordered
there's
so
some
for
new...
last Christmas. I ordered the ones that were recalled for my both
me
my
too.
sons.
Me too.
And they both still use them today. They haven't had any problems with them. They both still use them. I'm getting for me, if they will ever come out with it, they may not have heard of this season called Christmas, the holiday season. But I want to order the Surge, the one that's I think it does heart rate monitoring, like you said. There's some other things.
Surge HR, I think they have two versions. A Surge.
No, you think of the Charge.
Oh, really? Okay.
There's a Charge HR and
right.
Charge HD.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Charge HD and the Surge are not out yet. They just say early 2015.
Yeah, you wouldn't think measuring your heart rate from your wrist, where every nurse, anytime you go into the hospital, right, where do they check for your pulse, right?
Yeah.
Your wrist.
Right.
It has been really hard to get tech companies to figure out how to do that. That's been really hard. I think, we saw with the band that came with it, the Microsoft band came with a heart rate monitor. Now we're seeing Fitbit. I think they're starting to figure that out, exactly how to make that work. Once somebody figures out, everybody else will reverse engineer it. Super important to know, there's a lot of biometrical stuff there that you want to get from your heart rate and monitor that on a consistent basis. Imagine if you could have a 24 by 7 inventory or data points of your heart all the time. It could tell doctors things about how you're doing, right? This is where all this stuff is going.
Yeah,
And
I can imagine, Jim. Hey, it's you're in an accident, or for some reason you show up at the hospital and the nurse comes out with that that band to put on you, and then she goes to put, and you go, hold on, you want 24 hours of data? I got right here. Let me just give me that USB cable. I got 24 hours, baby.
That's right. Just
print that out.
Boop, there it is. That's my heart rate for the last month. But yeah,
I got an Excel spreadsheet that we can look at there.
Well, he mentioned Excel. I'm going to go there just next. But I want that juicer is a bigger deal than what I think you think about. Because for me, for a lot of people, you can't eat vegetables. Vegetables are just awful to eat for a lot of us, the taste wise. But if you juice them and then you put in something like a lemon or something, like I said, it makes them bearable, and that can be a big health change for you.
Yeah, no, it's good to get that stuff in and get it however you can. That looks interesting. That's kind of a high tech kind of stuff. That is it Breville? Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't know how to say the name. Yeah.
Fountain Crush Mastidating Slow Juicer. So it must in the process of doing it. It's just not like the old mixers where they just would grind everything up, right, to extract the juice.
So what's crazy, if you put a carrot in there, and we all know there's some liquid inside of a carrot, but you put a carrot in there and you'll be shocked by how much liquid comes out of this thing when you're done. It's like that much liquid should not be inside of a carrot.
Where'd that come from?
Yeah, this thing has some kind of water injector that's doing it as it's a trick. But you do that with all
water your grass with carrots.
Yeah, with broccoli, with spinach, with all these different things that are good for you that you should be eating, that a lot of us don't because of the taste, or else you got to cover them in butter or ranch or something like that in order to eat them. You can eat them by adding in other things that are healthy for you, like a lemon or apple or something like that. And there's a lot of different things you can do. But
Mike, in 3 months, we want an update, eh? In 3 months, we want to find out. We're going to record this podcast and say, I love that. I'm going to get me a juicer. Then 3 months from now, we'll see. Mike, how did that juicer work out?
That's true. It's all the follow-up. I do have this 15-pound weight here at my desk.
He's got everything at his desk.
But my last one, John, you mentioned Excel. And I'd like to put a distinction between what Christian calls big data and what I call big data, because we almost have to say what he's calling big data is like ultra mega big data, and what I'm calling big data is big data for me. So as I have
Wait,
two.
just before we go any further, there's no comparison unless you say big data. It's just big data.
Well, I'm not going to be able to say that.
All right, sorry. That's what we're talking about here. There's no such thing as big data. It's only big data, and big data is the new bacon.
Okay.
All right, just to
You know,
be sure.
There's I wear two hats. One is the IT hat in my job, and one is the controller, as the accountant. And for us accountants, there's a lot of, we got to do the debits and credits and all that kind of stuff. It's the things we got to do. But we're in control of a massive amount of the company's data, or however you said that.
Data.
We're in control of a massive amount of that. And our main tool that we all use is Excel. That's the thing that we all use. But for the vast majority of accountants, we're doing just the normal stuff. We're maybe doing some pivot tables and that kind of stuff. A while back, they came out with Power Query, which can take, before you could do, let's say, a pivot table on 1 million rows of data, which is pretty big. I mean, you're going to have a decent computer to do that. Power Query, ramps it up to massive amounts of you can handle 100 million records, something like that, with it. It has some limitations, but it's pretty cool. And now they've come out with another thing called, I'm sorry, Power Pivot is what you could have used before, that you could handle 100 million rows. Now they come out with something called Power Query inside of Excel, using normal, looking Excel stuff, where you can query things on the web, you can query things on your SQL server, you can query things to, through other spreadsheets. You can bring all this stuff in. It's a real simplified view of querying data that is something that is easily learned by the average accountant. It doesn't have to be the IT guy. And I know my IT group doesn't like that. They like everything centralized. Let's run all that through IT. We can build that for you. But I don't know about IT departments where you guys are, but they're always overloaded. So if I want something built for me, I got to get on a list, and I got to wait until it becomes important, and it may never get done. Or now with the tools that are offered in Excel, I can deal with 50, 60, 100 million records and build stuff all on my own without having to wait for them. So I can do what was going to take 6 months, a year for them to get around to doing, I can do in a couple days or less.
And I mean, you bring up a great point in the sense that one of the questions we used to always sit at the table and ask ourselves we would have these reviews at NASA, and we'd be talking about the different data types we would be supporting for some of this stuff. And you would sit there and you'd look at them and you'd go, you're basically trying to design a polar ion cannon to look at something that can be solved with Excel. And it was like, well, no, it's big data. So I'm like, no, and you're absolutely right. I mean, Excel, tabular, row-based stuff is still going to be one of the predominant data sets that the business and enterprise deals with. That's just the reality. We do transactions. Rows are transactional data storage mechanisms, and so to me, it makes perfect sense to continue to expand Excel with Power Query and some of the other things you're talking about. That just seems pretty logical to me. Yeah. I think some of the big data that I'm talking about that we're still like in the midst of struggling with is the sentiment analysis, the textual natural language processing, picking out that really small data point in a vast set of points that, really if I were to throw this in a SQL query, the server would sit there and not answer me for years. I mean, these are the things that are a little bit hard to kind of quantify. And actually, one of the guys that I have a lot of respect for in the data space is Nate Silver, who really is a very practical pragmaticist about how data works and what are the kind of the misconceptions and the ways we misuse the technology to try and force the data to tell us things that the data shouldn't be telling us. And I think that's why getting people excited about things like making Excel work better for us and how it can do it, that is good because it brings some healthy realism to an area that's hyperinflated. And if you look at that, the curve of the virality curve, it's not exactly a virality curve. I don't remember the name of the graph, but it's a Gartner graph, and it basically says, here are the technologies that are at the peak. Oh, that's what it is, a hype curve, right? And Internet of Things is at the very highest point of the hype curve, and you see this slope, and then it kind of levels off, and then you get that nice plateau. And the things that we're going to see in 2030 era is going to be the result of that hyperinflating technology. And I think we are in the midst of the highest point of, oh, this thing is going to be revolutionary. Well, not really. It's been here all along. We're fine-tuning and fine-combing it to be something else.
But Mike, you're running. I mean, you're running a lot of stuff in Excel. I mean, talk about on the maturity end of the technology, right? Excel it's in its very mature state, and you're doing a ton of stuff with it. That's enterprise, right?
Yeah, here's the way I look at it, because I battle this with the IT side, because I'm on both sides. I'm the
you are
CIO
both
for our company.
where you work.
What I tell them is I say, look, we may come up with 50, 100 ideas that we're just bouncing off our head. Hey, I'd like to look at it this way. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do that. The vast majority of those are going to fall away, and they're not going to become useful. But if I'm able to run those through and do them myself, if you've put the data in a place where I can get it through Excel, and I can run through and I can do all those tests and weed out the losers and say, wow, look, this is actually useful. Then we can turn it over to IT and say, build this that now could be viewed and used by a mass number of people. Because the limitations for Excel still is going to be that I'm going to be able to do it, maybe my accounting staff, but how do I have 1,500 people out in the field do it? Because they're not going to have the same hardware I'm going to have.
And they're not going to have the same expertise with the data itself.
That's where I need IT to then say, all right, this is the winner, now go build this. But that way they don't have to worry about the 20 losers for every one winner that we have to deal with. But I've been preaching to my accounting staff is we got to think beyond debits and credits, beyond reconciling bank statements. We're the holders of a large portion of the company's data, and we can start doing more with it.
I think 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, the best thing to ever happen to BI was people stopped, or IT departments stopped letting people build things in Access, and they didn't forbid Excel, right? And that has been good because we see a lot less. We saw tons of Access databases which are just terrible. They are awful. It's one of Microsoft's, I think. I mean, it's great to do a quick database in, but just a terrible piece of software. Where Excel has just gotten really good and very mature in a lot of the stuff that it's doing. So there's lots.
And the thing Power Query does is it makes querying a easier and more almost WYSIWYG type thing for the average accountant. Where if you went and asked IT, hey, can you get me this? They would go through and type in all these commands and do all this kind of stuff, and you go, that's just a foreign language to me. I have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
I can do that same stuff now in Excel.
No, it makes more sense. So cool. Well, I don't want to run out of.
I like to use Access though to manage my data, and then using different data sets, merge together the parts that I want, throw that into an extract file that goes into Excel, and then do my analysis in an Excel. But then using Access to kind of keep things, keep it managed out there. And of course, I mean, on a corporate level, you're going to have higher level programs too to manage your data. But
well, John, what happened in the enterprise? What happened?
For Access, but it's
yeah.
In its place.
It's exactly what happened in the enterprise was they tried to make them enterprise level databases, relational databases. Should have been in SQL or Oracle or something like that. And then they would join them all together, and they would have this, it was awful. It was just terrible. So it was glad to see the day that Access died in the enterprise. There's lots of good things it can do outside of the enterprise, but for the average user, if they want to do it in Access, I still think that's fine. But for the enterprise, man, there was no better day than when Access died for the enterprise. And it started, they started migrating that to a real database.
Some places still use it, and you can do SQL queries on Access.
I know, and it's terrible. It's terrible that they're using it. It's not backed up very well. There's no integrity in it. I mean, there's all kinds of terrible problems with it. And they don't even support it that much anymore. So if you're going to do real enterprise stuff with it, I'd say, man, you better check twice.
Well, I guess it depends on how you define enterprise.
Yeah. Well, if are you doing it for your business?
Let's just turn the page.
Okay.
I don't want to go into what it's being used for.
Okay, good enough.
Stop knocking Axis.
Sounds good. John Zadler, let's
sir.
we haven't heard from you in a while. Let's hear what you are excited about 2015. I know you've gotten into big train stuff recently, but what are you excited about 2015?
Well, one of the things I got, my brother actually today I went to visit my brother. He gave me one of these 7-inch. What's this? This is the HP Stream 7. So he had an Android tablet. These are $120. You know, the Canadian dollar is a little bit less than American. So let's say what you get for 99, we get for 120. You know, so it's a nice little. It's a little bit a hefty guy, and you know, there's different models. And one that he had today is he plugged in. It had a micro HDMI slot. You know. So he just plugged in his monitor, you know, his 27-inch monitor into this little tablet, put it on the side, and he's running it on the screen. You know, as soon as he plugged it in, his mouse, Bluetooth mouse, everything was working. So it's nice, you know, that, you know, and Microsoft, I think they're supposed to be releasing at the end of January 21st or something. They're supposed to be releasing the new consumer preview for Windows 10, you know, for the mobile devices, for like the tablets and the phones. So what I'm looking forward to is to see how that operating system is going to work like on these tablets, and how, you know, more people will say, you know what, I'm not going to buy a desktop. I'll buy a small tablet like this. And I'll plug it into my big screen monitor and use my keyboard and mouse. And then when I want to go on the road or off to work, you know, I'll just unplug it. You know, so now I have everything with me instead of transferring, you know, from tablet. I know like Skype or OneDrive and all of that, you know, you can have your data there and then get it from a different device. But it's like, it's cool that you can have. There you go, John. What do you have there?
It's a Toshiba 7-inch tablet. It's the WT7 C16. So it only has 16 gig of RAM, but it has 1 gig. I mean, 1 gig of RAM and 16 gig of hard drive. Plus, I have a 64 gig card in it. And,
have you tried connecting it to a monitor, like a large screen monitor? Yeah.
No, I've hooked it up to a. It doesn't have an HDMI port. It's only a 7-inch. Their 10-inch has the HDMI, but I have hooked it up to a keyboard and mouse, and it looks kind of silly using that with a 7-inch screen. It took me a couple of months to really get to appreciate it, but when you treated it more, even though it has a full Windows 8.1 on it, if you treated it more as an RT device and did more with the apps, you kept the memory usage down quite a bit. And I have 3 gig of my SSD space still available, and what it's trained me to do is to keep more things up on OneDrive, really. And if you do that, life is going to be good. And I found it's really great as a media device. I used it a lot just recently at Christmas when we were visiting my son and grandson and his mom in Ohio. And, you know, I had all the media that my grandson likes. I had other media, like when we stayed over at my sister-in-law's, and that I, you know, could show people and stuff. But it's gotten so that I could maybe pull it up here, and you know, I have things, the media sectionalized, and like in the front is stuff that my grandson likes. I have Amazon Prime, and I have it set up so that if he or I click on Amazon, it's locked so that you can't go and get movies that cost anything. You can't get anything that's over G rated without the code. But I have other stuff that in groupings, and I can move those groupings when I'm with my grandson, so that it's harder for him to get to. But like I said, I think it's a great device to really kind of get you into doing everything in. Throwing all your stuff up on the cloud, and like even my wallpaper is from the cloud. So it's I can't say enough about it. Good things about it. I like it.
So, John Zadler, what you're saying though is you're excited about being able to take those devices as kind of being your primary desktop, but you take it with you when you're home. You set it down, plug everything in, boom, it powers up your powers up your workstation at home, but you can
Yeah.
unplug it, take it on the road, take it with you, plug it in somewhere else. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's it. It's like, these devices, because, before at a small form factor, you only had what did they call it? The Windows RT devices, so it's like no native Windows software on it. But then, now it's like, yeah, this looks 7-inch guy, and he's got, you even have the desktop on there, mind you, the resolution is really nice, but it's like, yeah, you got some desktop apps, and today I wanted to install that. Program called Windows Mouse Without Borders, so I can use my desktop mouse and then just go over here. Yeah. But what's nice is these devices, it's they have Bluetooth built in. On your PC, you have to say, especially if you have an older PC, oh, I gotta buy a Bluetooth dongle or USB mouse, I have to plug it in. Here it's like, everything is Bluetooth, and it's you just sync your mouse to it or your keyboard to it, and like everything is kind of built in. But this 7-inch guy doesn't have any USB slot on it. But this is why I guess that's a thing you have to think about when you start, deciding to buy yourself a small tablet. Obviously, if you have the Surface Pro 3, it's like 12 inches, basically a laptop, and you got all your USB, you got all your connections. But if you buy a little guy like this, it's like, this guy might have less memory. The other one might have better resolution. Maybe the screen when you tilt it, it's it's like it doesn't show very well. Some of them are better. It's a better screen. The other one is USB ports. Like I said, my brother's has the HDMI. This one doesn't. This one doesn't have a micro. You got some stuff. And like you say, with the sharing the media stuff, it's nice. My brother installed Kodi, which is the new XBMC. I think they're. So, and I really like it. I prefer it over the, he has an Android device. And I don't know, I think Microsoft, Paul Thurrott or some guys were kind of saying that, as far as phones, when Apple phones, OS 8, and, that's the way to kind of go. But when you go to tablets and the phones, what was the other thing? Yeah, Android phones market is more, right? You're selling more Android phones than iOS phones. But as far as tablets, Android tablets are like not so good, and it's true. When I look at this guy compared to an Android tablet, I really like the presentation that Microsoft is giving, with the with the new Metro interface and all that stuff. Like I said, you don't use a desktop on this guy. It's to look at that screen. That's really nice. That's something nice to look at.
Yeah,
if
you needed more screen real estate, you could just plug in a camera or another monitor to that and power it off. Mike, we got this in chat real quick, and we should probably, because I said we keep them up to date on the score. What's the score of the game right now?
It's Alabama 14, Ohio State 6, and it's about 11 minutes left in the second quarter.
All right.
Oh, no.
It's not even halftime yet.
But I was just going to mention something kind of piggybacking on what John had said too, was my 7-inch here has a micro USB port, and I can plug in, and I've done it. I've plugged in my terabyte travel drive, external drive, and I can plug it into that, and so I got a terabyte of movies I could watch or shows and stuff. And so that makes it great for traveling. We went on a vacation. Kathy and I did at the about 2 months ago for our anniversary, and of course I'm saying it was our anniversary. There were like TV shows that she was watching that I didn't want to watch that much. Let's just say HGTV and stuff. And so I would pull out my tablet, put in my headphones, and I had some movies on the 64 gig card. I also had movies on flash drives, and I had the hard drive with movies. So I would watch shows, and I even went on to Amazon Prime just to see to check how good the Wi-Fi at the hotel was, and it was pretty good. It was a Holiday Inn, one of their vacation places down in Florida. But anyway, I digress. So these things are pretty cool, and like John said, these for a casual user, they're great. I mean, still, if I wanted to work on Excel or Word, I may look at the document on my 7-inch, but when I want to work on it, I want to have my desktop. I'd really like to have at least 2 monitors to work on it with, but 3 would be great too. But I mean, you want a lot of real estate to work with stuff, but
Yeah, but that's it. But I'm thinking that if they become powerful enough that the CPU and the memory's in there, enough of it, then and you can just plug it into a HDMI cable, or I think some other models also have the Miracast, so you don't need a micro HDMI. You can use Miracast, and then maybe your LCD TV supports that, so it's like bang, you send the command and off it goes, and then like you say, Excel on this is too small, but if it can hold the spreadsheet, then you can have a 64 gig. Because remember before, I think they were kind of limited to how much size of a micro SD card you could put in them. Now you can put 34 and 32 and 64 gig SD cards in there, and they're affordable.
You're still going to be limited.
They'll take 128.
You're still going to be limited by the CPU in that thing. It depends on what kind of Excel spreadsheets you're doing. If you're doing light spreadsheets, then that may do it. But the kind of spreadsheets I do, your tablet will never.
You want some horsepower.
Even the Surface Pro 3, which uses a mobile processor, doesn't have near the processing capability to handle the kind of spreadsheets I'm talking about.
That's why 2015 is the year of the desktop cloud, in the sense that when you really want, like in John's scenario, it doesn't have a lot of processing power. When you want to go to a machine where you need it, you just dial into your desktop in the cloud, and it just displays it there for you. I've been doing that now for a couple months, and I'm getting really good. There's still some things I can't do, but I'm getting really good response times for editing and sometimes for video consumption. Just doing it, just watching it off the one that's on the cloud, and we have a little ways to go, but man, we are so close to that.
You're talking about like streaming it, right?
Yeah.
It's like basically
I'm talking about streaming your desktop. Yeah, your desktop lives in the cloud. I mean, I've got a Windows 7, a Windows 8, and a Windows 10 instance on Azure that I can just go to and do stuff on. And in it, again, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting pretty darn close. Even with video, it's getting really pretty good. So a lot better than it used to be.
You make me think about the other day. I use Steam, right, for the games and all of that. Download the games, so that's good, because sometimes it's like, you got a new computer or whatever, so you just install your Steam account, and then if you have unlimited bandwidth, then great, download all your stuff. You're not popping in CDs and all that stuff. It's like download all my games, install on that PC. So I did that on one PC. Then I went on another PC and I installed the Steam client there. And then I started getting this option there. It says stream the game. Like instead of installing the game on the other PC, it gave me the option. Like it said, oh, you're logged in on that computer and you have an account on this. It's the same account and stuff. It's like, do you want to stream the game from that computer? I haven't tried it, but kind of like what you're saying about your desktop. It's like your computer, like all your hardware is on the other guy, and he's just maybe streaming the games, and you're just using your controller or keyboard or whatever to do the screenshots. So it's like, yeah, maybe with the big Excel spreadsheets or again gaming, mind you, gaming, you might want the big monitor and stuff like that, but that might be another option.
We're kind of seeing two paths happening with us right now. One is the need for more and more power at the desktop for these bigger spreadsheets, but then also more of a need for lightweight spreadsheets, for something we can do maybe a Google Doc or something like that, where it's more we need more collaborative nature going on, where we might have a spreadsheet where I'm tracking something I need multiple managers to key and add their data into, and it's not lots of data, but it's something we need information on, that we can do it that way. So we're kind of seeing both of them in growth, both needing power and more cloud-based at the same time. And then somebody Ken mentioned out there, I think he's talking about like thin clients, doing something like that. I've thought about doing something like that with a test with maybe our AP department, who doesn't need heavy processing power. They mainly just need, almost just green screen where they're just keying in the invoices. And those are things that would be perfect for a trial of setting up a Server 2012 R2 and doing, thin clients off of that, doing VMs from that.
Yeah, Jim, you had mentioned a while, and I think I touched on it for a little bit. You had mentioned on Windows Server 10, I think built in is the multi-point server. So I think that's where you can set up those like thin clients, just have either, let's say a monitor and then like a KVM, computer, keyboard, monitor, monitor, keyboard, and mouse. And you have a USB connection or a network connection to a server. and that server is running multi-point server. So like they're building that so you don't have to go and now build a new server and just dedicate it to that. You could say, look, I got this nice server that's running server 2012 R2 Essentials. So you're running server, you're running Essentials, and you're running multi-point on there to allow you maybe for, like you said, maybe a couple of clients and stuff, and say, okay, folks, the data is all over there, and go get it. So that might be another option.
It's not a home application. I mean, it's driven for business in a lot of ways. And Mike, for what you're talking about for your accountants and stuff, I think these are the solutions we'll move to. Gaming has just got all its own special problems. But in enterprise, there's no need necessarily to have the most powerful desktop. Everybody has the most powerful desktop. If you can build one big monster on the farm and let it do its job. Again, we're not totally there yet, but I think we're getting closer. John, real quick, as we kind of bring this in for a landing here, anything else that you're looking forward to, John Zadler?
No, I'm building other circuit boards for my model train stuff. There, some guys were asking me, so I'm just playing around with some of that
we'll
stuff.
Have to have you back on. In fact, you're on next week, right? You're on Home Gadget Geeks next week, right? You and Chris Barnes. So we'll have you scheduled. We'll have you on the schedule, or we'll have you talk more about that next week when you have you back on. So good. I do want to spend, Christian, I want to spend a little time with you. We want to highlight a little bit of what the future is looking like for you, especially there with Maple Grove Partners and some of those things. Don't give it all away because we're going to do a little post-show stuff. We're going to record that as well. But why don't you, Christian, as you look ahead for what you're doing, talk a little bit about what you're looking forward to in 2015.
Sure. Yeah. No. Before we circle there, I'm looking forward to school. Actually, we're doing some really cool things in the research space and in the cybersecurity community that I think are cool things. It's keeping me interested, keeping me plugged in. It's been really great working with Ashton on some of these projects, and we've seen some cool stuff, and Maryland has given us a lot of resources. So looking forward to seeing more of that and getting into the upper level track here. Looking forward to talking about and working with folks on the new hosting platform that I've built and made public for the new year. So we're now offering some pretty badass hosting, in my opinion, that is pretty cool and is kind of a culmination of 4 or so years of me building this thing kind of from the ground up, one step at a time, and it's been a fun ride. So.
Christian, when you say hosting, talk a little bit. I mean, for the average guy, certainly the average guy is hosted out there. So I have a WordPress instance that's out there. I store some MP3s on it to serve you guys the audio files that we do here. But what have you guys built there, and what are you hoping to have it do?
Sure. So we have essentially built a super high performance, backed up, redundant, secure solution for hosting, and it's really kind of, I like to think of it it's not something that you can really get in the market right now, right? You kind of get two extremes when the average guy wants to get a website, a domain, and do some hosting. You end up with one or two things. You end up, one, paying a pretty fair price for shared hosting, which is normally on an overcrowded platform with a bunch of people that you're gonna outgrow it pretty quick if your site starts to do well. The other extreme of that is you get out of that, you outgrow that shared hosting environment, and all of a sudden you're dumped into this reality where at the very minimum, you might pay $30 a month for VPS, but really to go on the high end of dedicated hosting, you're looking at like $100 a month to have your own dedicated hardware somewhere out there that has the IP address. So what I've tried to do with this solution is make at a really affordable price point, provide kind of both services, but both of them are rock solid, high performance, high bandwidth. You're not going to have to worry about hitting a bandwidth quota because it's unlimited. You're not going to have to worry about slow page speeds because I've built everything myself, from the hardware to the network to the software. And most of the companies out there that you deal with are, I call them the fifth-party resellers, meaning that they're a web hosting company that is reselling hardware from another web hosting company, which is reselling from another network provider, and the list goes on and on. Whereas with my platform, everything is stuff that I've touched and built and configured myself, and I'm not outsourcing any of your services to a third party. The average guy runs on this platform now. I got about 10, 15 sites that have reliably been on this platform in kind of a closed form, right, for the past 3-4 years, and now it's kind of become it's a public offering. So MapleGrovePartners.com is where it's all out and happening, and now we're taking actual live internet orders. You can go out and purchase one of these containers, and I think it's a cool thing. A lot of people kind of underestimate the value of having high-performance web hosting being a factor in how well their website's going to do on the internet. And let me tell you, the difference between whether or not your page loads in half a second versus 3 seconds makes a huge difference in traffic. And I have data on that for my sites. Jim, even you have data about that with the average guy. And so really, this is a platform I like to think comes in at a pretty great price point for what the equivalent out there is on the internet. And I'm doing some things with the platform that other hosting providers aren't going to be as forthcoming about doing. For example, all the administrative backend, the serious stuff like FTP and stuff, there's no password login in my platform. You get an automated SSH key sent up, and it's all RSA encryption. I mean, these are the types of things that having this type of platform that I've built, we're doing things that big web hosts can't do because of how they're architected, how they're resold, and so forth. So super secure, super reliable, super failed over, super high performance. That's what I've kind of been going for with this, and it's done a great service for my sites. We just brought on our first customer for this new platform service last week, and he's using our dedicated package. He gets 22,000 hits a day on his site, and the platform makes it look like it's child's work, which is pretty impressive. I mean, these pages snap up in about a second max. He's got up to maybe 300 concurrent users on the site at any given time, and this thing just plugs and chugs. And that's really what I look forward to seeing on the platform, is people get that mileage out of it, because for him, the equivalent to get that level of performance to handle that volume of users, 20,000 hits a day, he would be paying $100 anywhere else a month to run and do that himself. So that's a wrap.
Yeah, and so if you want to check that out, MapleGrovePartners.com, and then click on the pricing tab up there. It starts at $10. $10 a month gets you in, and if you're thinking about doing some, maybe you're in the situation where you're like, I've been wanting to start a blog. I mean, a WordPress site would be perfect for this, and Christian will spin all that up for you. And one of the things I like about it is kind of 4 years. We were talking earlier, John Zadler, you mentioned our anniversary. 4 years ago, and it was December 4th, Christian, not the 10th. I went back and looked when I was fixing everything. Christian and I realized we'd been, podcasting together for 4 years, and I've watched kind of Christian grow into this space, and it's been, accumulation of, he's always helped me with the Average Guy site from the very beginning, helped me set it up, helped me get on a host provider. The host provider didn't work very well. We moved on to something different. We've moved it internally with him. Watched him set up a business plan and really put this together and do a nice job. And for me, it's the opportunity to really host with somebody I know, right? I mean, this is Christian. Christian built this, and so if you want to be a part of what I think of having your website hosted on a platform where you know the people, if you're okay with that and you like it, it's not going to cost you. In fact, in some cases, it might cost you even less than it would to get some service from some other providers. I think this is a great opportunity for you. And so Christian and I will be promoting this out here for the next couple weeks, months here on the Average Guy as well as Cyber Frontiers, because I think it's a great project for Christian to work on. And man, if you've listened to Cyber Frontiers and we talked about cybersecurity, if there's one place that I think my website is going to be most secure, it's going to be on Christian's stuff. I'm just saying. It's probably going to be the most secure there. And my number 2 son works at another host provider. And Christian, yeah, I know how that can be. They get big, like you said, reselling. You kind of get forgotten in the mix sometimes. And so this will be a fun project. We're not trying to grow this thing to be, millions of people, but we'd like to take a few on, I think, at this point, right, Christian? and have the opportunity to kind of build some websites and let you take advantage of this platform. It's lightning fast. It's stupid fast. So if you like that kind of stuff, head over to Maple Grove Partners. Everything's automated. In fact, we'll encourage you not to contact us directly. Try to run it through the web stuff so we make sure all that stuff is working the way it should. Get an automated order done. You'll get all that stuff kicked out for you, and we'd love to have you a part of that. So this is, by the way, this isn't me. I said we, but it's really all Christian. I just go, that's cool, right? In this, so some cool stuff coming up, and we're excited about it. And if you want to take advantage of it, again, Maple Grove Partners. I'll have the link to it out there in the show notes as well. Well, guys, we're at the hour 20 mark. It always goes so fast, but I want to thank you. Stay around. Of course, we'll do post show if you come out live. The only way you get the post show is to stay around for the live show. We'll do some banter in the post show. Christian and I need to record a home tech tip, and so we'll do that here in the post show. But hang around. I'll remind. Well, first let me say, John Stutzman, John Zadler, Mike Howard, thanks for coming out and being a part of the brand new first one in 2015 podcast, and we're excited about what 2015 brings. I'm sure I'll hear from all three of you at some point in time in 2015 when we talk about podcasting. And so, John Stutzman, thanks for all the work that you've done on YouTube recently, especially becoming kind of the expert on the microserver and all the things that you're doing. So good work with that as well. And
it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
good
you.
stuff. So, Mike Howard, you're muted. I know you're trying to talk. So, rookie.
I was doing some stuff here, and I didn't want y'all to hear me, so I muted and then forgot. I just wanted to say I was doing some searches on storage spaces and some things like that, and what do you know? John Stutzman's video comes up, and I went out there and watched it, and great video there, John.
Well, thanks a lot. And one thing too, for 2015, we should be thinking about is we got Windows 10 and Server 10 coming up, and so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we got some good stuff. John Zadler, you are back with me next week, which is really cool to have you on again, and we'll talk some stuff on your site. Chris Barnes is going to join us. It's always good to have Chris on the program. I try and get him on once a year, and so it reminds me I probably need to remind him he's on next week. But the golden
Jim, I almost want to postpone it. I said I want to be on 200, man.
Oh,
I'm only going to be on 190, 198.
Maybe we'll move. Maybe I'll just do Chris Barnes next week. Although I'll have to look at the schedule. I think I didn't even, when I scheduled out for January and February, I didn't even think about numbers. So
are you doing anything special for 200? You got anything in the works or what?
Nothing in the works. We're just going to blow past it.
Okay.
We don't want to be accused of any backslapping, John.
Who loves you, baby?
That goes way back to Home Service Show 100. That we got accused of doing congratulatory backslapping was the way that came out. So guys, thanks for coming out. Christian, hang around a little bit. I'll remind you we're live out here every Thursday, and we'll do a bunch of Thursdays in 2015. Every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, at theaverageguy.tv/live. A reminder, just sign up for the newsletter that's available, theaverageguy.tv/newsletter. Thank you for using the Amazon affiliate links. And it's appropriate to mention that we have that Amazon affiliate link just for our Canadian residents, and actually John Zadler is the beneficiary of that. He'll take those funds and purchase things that he'll do for testing, and we'll have him back on the program to talk about that as well. Super easy, theaverageguy.tv, just that's everything, /AmazonCA, CA for Canada, of course. And John will get that in there. And so, John, have we seen much come through that? I've been pimping that for the last 6 months, but it takes a while for those things to get started. Are we getting many Canadians to purchase that way?
A few.
Okay.
A few are kind of trickling in, yeah.
Good.
Hopefully
Good.
I'll see something now, because I think they have it like you see last month's and stuff like that, so maybe next month I'll see for people who bought all their Christmas presents.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this should be coming up here pretty quick. So the AverageGuy.tv/AmazonCA for our Canadian residents. US guys, don't use that one because it won't work for you. Won't work for us either. Make sure you're using just the Amazon affiliate link there as well. Subscribe to Cyber Frontiers now that we have that fixed and working again. Make sure you get Cyber Frontiers downloaded. If you haven't subscribed to this show, you'll want to do that as well. And then 2015 is going to be a great year of hosting, and we'll talk more about Maple Grove Partners and all that stuff that's going on there, and we're excited to bring that to you as well. We'll be back next Thursday. Again, John Zadler, Chris Barnes. That's at least what's on the schedule right now. And we'll be back here 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern. Christian, that's 8 p.m. Central.
Yes. Yes.
9 Eastern at theaverageguy.tv live. I want to thanks to everybody who came out on a holiday, at least here in the United States anyways, a holiday to listen to us live. Stay around for the post show. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.